Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video where we dive once again into the fantastic world of dinosaurs. And we'll do it to get to know all these specimens. Inside, we have both herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs. Also, you already know that I love these figures, because we can assemble and disassemble them like a puzzle. Also, that allows us to move the jaw, in the case of the carnivores, and also move both their front and back legs. In this case, we have a big Velociraptor. Velociraptors were dinosaurs carnivores. The little figure comes with very striking colors: blue, yellow, and some touches of black. As you know, Velociraptors could reach about 2 meters in length. The most characteristic thing about them was their long tail, which they used to change direction. Also, something very characteristic about them was that one of their claws was shaped like a hook. We can see it here at the bottom. Velociraptors, although they weren't very big, were able to catch large prey because they hunted in groups. And a very curious fact about them is that, even though it doesn't appear this way in the movies, in reality, Velociraptors had feathers all over their bodies, especially on their tails, where the feathers were very bushy. Let's leave it here and continue with a different one. Look, friends, we have a spectacular dinosaur, especially because of the large crest of spines it has. It's called Dimetrodon. Its crest of spines alone could reach more than 2 meters in length. Also, it was a quadruped. It walked on all fours. As you can see, its body is very similar to the bodies of present-day lizards. However, Dimetrodon was gigantic in size. As you can see, its jaw was also quite robust. Its teeth were not very sharp, but they were very thick and very strong. Very strong. They had an incredible bite. There was no way to escape from those sharp teeth. As you can see, the figure is also really cool. Also, the crest of spines is made from a softer plastic, which means we can move it, and it comes in some amazing colors. Dimetrodon also loved its sail. It would go into the water in search of marine animals, meaning it could be both in the water and on land. Shall we continue with a herbivorous dinosaur? This dinosaur was called Pachycephalosaurus. As you can see, it was characterized by the shape of its head on top. It had a skull as hard as a rock. It used it to engage in big battles against others of its own species, or also to defend itself from predators. In addition, it also had large spikes at the back that were very helpful, just like other large herbivores. It also had a strong beak that it used to dig in the ground in search of food, since it was a type of dinosaur that fed on plants, leaves, grass, and fruit, or also on roots that it found underground. As you can see, it was a bipedal dinosaur that walked on its hind legs, although sometimes it also used all four to run at high speed, just like the Parasaurolophus. Another one. Let's see which one is next. And this time we have a marine reptile. It comes completely black, except for its eyes and these details. This dinosaur is silver and is called Mosasaurus. As you can see, it had a pretty robust body and a rather large head. It comes with very sharp teeth, and as you can see, the jaw is shaped like pincers. It's a finger trap. It was a giant of the oceans. Its skin was very scaly, and regarding its fins, the front ones were slightly larger than the back ones. It didn't have a very long tail, however. With its fins, it could move them very quickly to swim at high speed. A giant and a super predator of the oceans. Let's leave it here and see which one is next. Well, we have another very distinctive dinosaur. It's another type of herbivore. Based on its characteristics, we can say it's a Therizinosaur. It had a slightly long neck, and it was a feathered dinosaur. Its whole body was covered in feathers. It also had a strong jaw and this distinctive beak at the tip. However, the most spectacular thing about the Therizinosaur was its large claws. It had rather large forelimbs and 3 claws that it used defensively, although here on this little figure, it barely has any claws. However, you already know that this dinosaur had huge claws and would wave them very quickly from side to side whenever a predator tried to attack it. A dinosaur. Really fascinating. Another one over here. Let's see which one is next. Look over here. We're seeing a super big figure. What do you think? Should we make it? It's a big carnivore because of the horns it has on its head. We already know that it's the great Carnotaurus. And this figure is also one of those we can assemble and disassemble. However, it comes in a much larger size. I like it because it can also move its head up and down. Also, since the legs are jointed, we can put it in different positions. For example, tilted upwards or crouching down, as if it were eating some kind of animal on the ground. As you can see, the front legs of the Carnotaurus were very small, and it had 3 tiny fingers on each of them. Also, its jaw was impressive. An interesting fact is that even with its mouth closed, the teeth in its upper jaw were still exposed. It also had these small horns, which are very reminiscent of a bull's horns. Also, the skull of the great Carnotaurus was huge, so the sides were flattened to lighten its weight. And I have to admit that I really like the colors of this figure a lot. We'll leave it here for now. We still have a lot more to discover. This time, we have another great carnivore that lived on planet Earth during the Jurassic period. As you can see, it is characterized by the large crests it had on its head. It's called Therizinosaurus. What's interesting is that the Therizinosaurus had differently shaped crests, depending on whether they were male or female. It could reach a height of about 2 meters and an approximate length of about 6 meters from the tip of its mouth to the end of its tail. And we still have a lot of dinosaurs left inside the box. Here we have another great carnivore, a giant. Among the giants that inhabited planet Earth during the Cretaceous period is the great Spinosaurus. Its crest could reach more than a meter in length, and it was generally a bipedal dinosaur that walked on its hind legs. Its jaw was impressive, as it was quite elongated, very much like the jaws of modern crocodiles, but on a gigantic scale. In addition, this dinosaur was also called the sail dinosaur, since it loved to eat marine animals. Therefore, it would dive into the water and expose its large crest, making it look like a large sailboat. Here's another one. I see a big reptile.
Volador.
A horn that it has on the back of its head. We already know that this is a pteranodon. It also had a strong beak, as you can see, very long and thin at the tip. Another interesting fact is that it had a pouch underneath, very similar to that of pelicans, which it used to store food. As you can see, we can open and close the beak. It had a long wingspan of more than 2 meters, and we can also flap its wings up and down. The body of the pteranodon was large, like that of the rest of the flying reptiles. It was quite thin and slender, which allowed them to reach great heights and fly very fast. Another one over here. And this time, we have an armored dinosaur. Look, one of its horns just fell off. Let's put it back on. It's a big oops. Now, if we have it properly in place, it's an Ankylosaurus. As you can see, it was characterized by having super thick and tough skin. It was also covered with a lot of spikes on the top, which made its skin almost unbreakable. In addition, it had a powerful defensive tail swipe. Its tail had a ball or club at the tip that it swung from side to side to defend itself from predators. It also had large spikes on its head. And look, it comes without any eye detail. I thought I saw another Ankylosaurus, but no, this is the only one we have. It also had a strong beak. Look, here we see it colored in gray. Let's see which one is next. It's another very famous herbivore. It's the great Triceratops. It had 3 large horns on its head, which it used to defend itself.
Si venía un gran tiranosaurio rex,
in order to defend themselves, Ankylosauruses and groups could protect each other. Look, we have 3.
Pero en esta ocasión la figura nos viene en color transparente, que le da un toque súper chulo.
In color, but we can see the horns are translucent. The horns of the Triceratops could reach more than a meter in length. Next dinosaur. We only have a few left, but we had to include a long-necked one. Here we have a great Brachiosaurus, characterized by this long neck, and also by the small bump it had on the top of its head. As you know, it was huge and could reach more than 25 meters in length. Its legs were very sturdy, since they had to support the weight of this great dinosaur. Also, its jaw was quite small, since it only fed on fruits, leaves, and grass. It had to eat tons of food every day, since it needed to maintain the weight of this huge body. And we have two dinosaurs left here. They are two large carnivores. Here we have a Velociraptor. We've already seen one before, although this time it comes in different colors. We can put them together since they lived in groups or packs, so they're together like this. So they could attack a large dinosaur, and the last dinosaur we have left to see is the great Tyrannosaurus Rex. Also, I really like the figure because of its colors. It comes with these golden tones and black on the bottom part. The T-Rex was known for having a gigantic jaw, equipped with a total of 60 sharp teeth. Also, its tail was very large and robust, and it used it for balance, since its head was gigantic and could reach more than 1.5 meters in length.
Dude.
And now, we've finished today's video. Here we have all the dinosaurs we've learned about. As you can see, they're really cool, and the biggest one is the great Carnotaurus. If you enjoyed today's video, you can help me out by giving me a super like, a thumbs up, and I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. And now, it's time for me to say goodbye to you all. See you in the next video with more amazing dinosaurs. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye.